Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with Tech Lab Unleashed. Today I'm going to be talking about a little bit about the current open source storage king and the good and the bad in on one particular subject. So overall, I'm fairly certain that Truenas is probably the best open source file server available out there. And, don't get me wrong, it is amazing for what it does. However, whenever the subject comes up to properly integrate TrueNAS with a Active Directory service so that you can you can have centralized control of your users and issue and control and close shares without the needing to manually build them up inside the TrueNAS instance. This is kind of where it becomes a little bit of a broken relationship. To preface, I am sorry that it took over a month to pull up this video, because my last video is over 30 days ago. So I will try to keep this as compact and as short as I can, because there has been a lot of work that I have done and a lot of testing and rebuilding and destroying and cloning, and it's just a lot. Okay, so please bear with me. So to preface, I have used 6 different operating systems. Well, sorry, not 6 different, 2 different, but with 3 different versions of them. Windows Server 2016, Windows Server 2019, and Windows Server 2022. The standard editions of each, they have had DNS and Active Directory services installed, and I have been using TrueNAS 13, TrueNAS 12, and TrueNAS or whatever it was at version 11. To give you sort of a little bit of a rundown, is because I am trying to centralize everything off of the active domain controller that I have in our basement. It has been, I want to say, kind of an update. Kind of a nightmare. And here are my findings. I have tried to do it with Windows Server 2016, TrueNAS 11, Windows Server 2016, TrueNAS 12, Windows Server 2016, TrueNAS 13, all like the latest update releases available of TrueNAS. I repeated the same thing with Windows Server 2019, going through TrueNAS 11, 12, and 13 with the latest update, and finally Windows Server 2022, TrueNAS 11, 12, and 13. And for what it's worth, I have to admit, on the initial join to the domain, TrueNAS works great, no problem, right? But the problem is that whenever you have to reboot either the active domain server or the TrueNAS server, you are met with a numerical ID for your usernames and your groups, and your data is hostage. It's simple as that. You no longer have access to your data if you were unfortunate enough to have your users save something in there, and it's just it's unfortunate, because TrueNAS is the essentially the head of open source storage centered operating systems, and for what it is, it's if you were to use TrueNAS on its own, just for that particular purpose, it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, However, building using it with the built-in Active Directory service, it is just a no-go. And this is basically the error after reboot. It does not have it has full access. Even the firewall is off. Now, it is true that it is virtualized. It does give me a little bit more control over it. However, if we come in here, you're going to see for yourself that the firewall option is removed. That means that on its own, there is no firewall active. And oops, sorry, let me just get rid of this. So what ends up happening is when if you are following the normal standard of joining your TrueNAS to your domain. So first off, you got to go into your global configuration, add your domain, add the Active Directory domain, the domain controller IP address directly. I was conversing with a couple of individuals directly on the TrueNAS forums. I was thinking, maybe I'm not doing it right. I went back into their documentation again. I made sure I followed it properly. And my conclusion is that you do not need to have the active domain controller IP address in the name server. You can have it forwarded to the TrueNAS instance via DHCP, and it should work just as fine. The domain section is very important to be filled up, and that would be pretty much it. And then you would be saving your settings. And the next step is under Directory Service. You're going to click the Active Directory tab, and you're going to enter your domain credentials, and you're going to save. This is the process of joining your TrueNAS instance to your domain. And once you do that, you go into sharing, SMBs, and then you're gonna be creating your shares, and it should be working. However, mine failed to join again for some silly reason, but your domain would be showing up here. Well, because mine starts with the letter T, it would be showing up OPQRST. So literally at the end, and you're gonna be seeing all the groups, all the users. You would be selecting a user, for example, Mary Fuller with their logon username. So fuller.m, and then in the group you would be selecting group your domain / domain users. And in the access control list, obviously you're just gonna delete the group, delete everyone, and leave it under the owner, who's gonna be Mary Fuller, for example. And it will work flawlessly the first time that you do it. However, when you go ahead and you do a restart or you do a shutdown, whatever it might be, this is the result. It's TrueNAS loses connection with your domain controller, and like I said earlier, you are left with the numeric ID for your users, and basically your data is hostage because you can no longer access it. If you try to change the user, say for example back to root and the group back to wheel, it will error out and it will not let you do it. Straight up, you're just your data is hostage in your TrueNAS server. Now, I do hope that somebody from IX System is going to see this video, because this problem, I guess, has been ongoing since at least 2021, It goes back to version 12, according to Vadimax user, and I don't think it has been fixed. There's multiple other threads that were made with people having problems um, joining their domain, and somebody suggested to me actually to try it with a Samba domain controller, which given I haven't really tried yet, but I will try it. And I don't know how long it's going to be because I am not familiar with Samba as a domain controller. It will be something that I play around with, and I will report back when I have the opportunity. But for the moment, because we are focusing on Truenas with just a dummy domain controller, well, not dummy, it's a Windows domain controller in an active environment. The problem is again that it loses connectivity right after a reboot, and something that I have observed in the numerous resets and rebuilds of a dummy environment is that it doesn't matter which one you reboot or power off first, the result is still the same. What's important is that the connection is severed, and I guess they just don't handshake. I am kind of disappointed in that because I was really hoping to integrate TrueNAS in my environment. I have been on edge with Windows Server acting as a file server, and I was really hoping to integrate TrueNAS. However, it is just not possible. I do have a couple of more ideas that I want to play around with. Open Media Vault is one of them. However, I kind of suspect that I will have a similar, if not the same, problem with the domain controller losing connectivity. And probably Samba would be a much better option. Now, if I had to give a conclusive statement, it's that if you were to use this independently, not without integrating a centralized user management, with the little asterisk that I haven't tried Samba just yet, TrueNAS is perfect, right? Because you can leverage the ZFS file system. It's wonderful for what it does. However, if you were to require a centralized user environment, something that you could control, remotely, or sorry, not remotely, but centrally, and give user permission access and create shares on the fly, maybe you're better off with Windows Server. And I mean, I'm kind of having a hard time saying that because I love open source software. I have been trying to, every time that I have a conversation with friends and coworkers talking about open source software, I have always been a avid supporter for open source. But when it comes to this, I'm really having a hard time. And honestly, at the end of the day, it could be that I'm still doing something in a incorrect manner. Maybe some of the bigger wigs in the tech support game or in the system administration game could chime in and could give their advice. I am curious to know why is it, preferably it would be a response from IX Systems. But I mean, if Jeff from what's his channel's name? If Jeff or Lawrence from Lawrence Systems can respond. Sorry, Jeff from what's his name, man? I keep forgetting. Where are you? 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 Where are you, Jeff from the beer channel. Okay, well, it's, you know which Jeff I'm talking about. Man, I think I'm fairly sure that I am subscribed to you, Jeff. Um, I'm not. Anyways, it's not the end of the world. You guys are fairly aware of which Jeff I'm talking about. It's just like I said, it would be nice if IX systems could make a direct statement on why it's not working or what users are doing wrong. So there's a proper integration between, a proper connectivity between Truenas and a working domain controller. However, just going back a little bit on what I said previously, I will be trying the same experiment with a Samba server hosted on a Debian server, but it might take just as long because I am not experienced with Samba. I have no idea what I'm gonna be doing, or maybe even an LDAP, centralized user environment. That would also be interesting to try because it is, after all, it is an option in TrueNAS, just to see if that may be a more attractive solution to users, because LDAP is, I mean, essentially free, because it's a little more complicated, yes, but it's much easier integrated and managed in a Linux environment. So maybe that's what it's gonna take. So just to summarize, it's so far TrueNAS in a active domain environment has not worked for me. There are people who say that it works. If you join TrueNAS into your active domain environment and that connection breaks, your data will be hostage to TrueNAS and you will not be able to recover it because it will be locked behind numerical IDs which you will not have access to. For now, thank you for joining. I know it's a quick and dirty video. I am trying to get better on that. I haven't really had a proper schedule to work on this. Like I said, it was a lot of building and rebuilding and cloning of virtual machines and testing different combinations of getting this to hopefully work. I am kind of bummed out that it was not a successful result, but I want to say that I do believe that there is something I could have done wrong, because there are people who say they have done it successfully, and I will, if the result changes to this, I will definitely come back and have a report for this, because this is something that I want to work. I am excited to make work. My personal file server, like I mentioned, is a active is a Windows server with the file server role enabled, and I want to leverage ZFS. I want to leverage the beauty and the functionality of ZFS over NTFS. So, not to mention the benefits of having an open source environment at home. I do want to leverage that, but until I can have a working solution in a virtualized environment, I don't think that I will make the switch. Thank you for joining me into another video. I will see you guys in the next one.